Welcome back to another video in my College Football 2026 season preview series, where we will go through and rank all of the top 10 teams going into the 2026 season. And today we have the Miami Hurricanes coming in at number 5. If you missed the past few videos, please go check those out after you finish this one, and be sure to subscribe and like the video. A little football will appear when you do it. It really helps me out and helps me grow this channel to hopefully 1,000 followers before the season starts. That's the milestone we're setting for the channel. If you haven't seen one of my deep dive videos before, then we usually start off with the primary off-season changes. This includes things like head coaching changes, transfer portal additions, transfer portal departures, and their NFL departures. Then we'll get into the current roster, their actual starting lineup, and I'll place every unit into a tier. Specific draft eligible players will get numerical grades because I've watched enough tape on them, but the tier system kind of helps give perspective for players where my grade maybe isn't as strong or I haven't been able to grade them. Then finally, we'll get into scheme because obviously this channel is called My Film Review, so we have to highlight the scheme, and we'll talk about things that went right or wrong last year, and we'll really dive into what these teams want to do on offense and defense to win games. Finally, we'll end with the schedule prediction where I'll pick all of the games on their schedule and hopefully get everyone mad in the comments about whether or not I choose them to win or lose certain matchups. Miami fans, congratulations on your last year, sincerely. It was an awesome way to cap it off after you've been building for so long in the Mario Cristobal era. I often debate, is it better to go to the national championship and lose, or is it better to just not make it at all? I wish I could know what the first one felt like, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that it is better to make it, because while that taste is sour in your mouth, if you're in the position that Miami is, where you arguably got better after this, then you can't complain. And if you're probably wondering if they got better, then why are they at 5? Well, we'll get into that. The guys that they did lose to the NFL were some of the best players that I watched last year, sincerely, and they are not easy to replace. Ultimately, I think it's safe to say that the committee did get it right last season, and I got a lot of people mad at me in the Notre Dame video in the comments, but at the end of the day, do I think Notre Dame should have gotten in over Alabama? That's an entirely different story. If it's Notre Dame versus Miami, they had to honor the head-to-head, and they did, and I think that was a great decision. Miami had their bumps along the road with SMU and Louisville, and I think the SMU game was a little worse than the Louisville game in my opinion, but it didn't end up mattering because they made it to the national championship, which just kind of proves that everything happened for a reason. To talk about their coaching, just like Indiana, Miami managed to keep all 3 of their key positions, including head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator. These 3 guys all peaked last season, and I would say, I think Mario Cristobal has finally hit his stride with this team, and part of that is thanks to the huge upgrade at defensive coordinator with Corey Heatherman, and we'll talk about his scheme later, but he genuinely saved this team. The 2024 Hurricanes were plagued by terrible defenses with electric offense, and within 1 year, Heatherman had this bunch playing as one of the top units in the sport. On the other side of the ball is Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator, and I think he does a very good job overall. They've had a great offense for a few years now, and even if they did take a backseat last year compared to what Cam Ward was able to do, I think you're gonna see them take another step forward this year with Darian Mensah. And then of course at the helm of it all is big Mario Cristobal, who's one of the most intense coaches in the sport. He's all about his business, all about the game, a true football psycho in the best way possible. He and the offensive line coach Alex Mirabal have really transformed this team's identity as being hard in the trenches with elite play there on both sides, but you can feel his effect all over this offensive line. I mentioned Alex Mirabal as being a key coach on the offense, but I would be remiss if I did not mention Jason Taylor on the defense. Having a former NFL Hall of Famer as your defensive line coach is a pretty important thing, and I think it shows in the results that they've gotten with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor and the guys that we're gonna talk about later. That is no slouch as a coach, and I seriously think if you play defensive end, Miami is one of the places to be because you're gonna get some of the best coaching in all of college football. For coaching changes, they did lose cornerbacks coach Zach Etheridge to the NFL, where he'll be coaching the Cardinals. Sorry for him. And while this is a big loss, I think they replaced him internally just fine with Terry Jefferson, who coached the Nickels last season. And while it was Keontae Scott, I think that position is better than the boundary guys, but we'll get there. Now I'll take the time to talk about what Miami had last year. The talent on this roster was epic. Like, I'm not saying they had the greatest roster of all time or the best NFL class of all time, but the 4 guys I'm gonna talk about were all my guys in 2026. I mean, they had some serious talent, and I wanna take a look at all of them individually, and I know I typically try to keep this video focused forward, but for this one, we're gonna talk about these guys because of the impact they had on Miami. The first is Francis Mauigoa, and some Giants fans are upset about this pick, and guys, come on. You have a second-year quarterback, you have gaping holes in the offensive line, and you have an elite and versatile lineman fall into your laps at 10. I think Mauigoa could play all 5 spots on the line. He was fantastic since the moment he set foot on campus at Miami, and this is a guy they're gonna miss. Then there is Ruben Bain Jr., the magnum opus of Miami's team, my #1 player in the draft. I think he's incredible. He has absolutely everything you want in a defensive end. I don't care about the arm length. He had unreal power and unreal motor, one of the deeper pass rush bags in the class too. Like, there was nothing that I felt like I needed to see from him more. Bain's playoff run should go down in Miami history, and I know the whole team was good, but the dude was a closer. I think he and the two guys we'll talk about next basically won them the game against Ohio State. He had a massive impact against Texas A&M, and I think he proved just how much he was worth in the title game too. Across from him was Akeem Mesidor, and it just flat out sucks to lose them both. The stuff that Corey Heatherman was cooking up with two of them was lethal, and sometimes using Ruben Bain out at like a 7 and lining Mesidor up on the interior. These two guys just dominated everywhere he put them. To be honest with you, I thought Mesidor had the better game against Texas A&M than Bain did, and that's no diss. I mean, he came in on fire. I know he was older, but when you look at his history, it just took him forever to find his true position, and I think it's safe to say that he found it. Then we get to the biggest disrespect in the class with Keontae Scott going in the 5th round. How did he make it this far? I don't understand it. I get it, he's a little shorter. Maybe they thought he was older and that was a knack on him, but I loved what I saw from Keontae Scott. I think he's a true difference maker, a true game changer, and the Buccaneers are lucky to have him playing across from Ruben Bain yet again. Scott embodies what it means to be a Miami Hurricane under Mario Cristobal. He's a psycho physical football player. He's decent size, like 6 foot and 195 pounds. He's not small, but he hits like he is 6'2", 225. And while that's gonna be missed, it's also his mental game that made him so special. If you listen to him talk about the Cotton Bowl interception, it's just music to your ears for football nerds. He basically knew the exact play was coming before the snap based on their personnel and the motion for the tight end. Preparation gets you through the process, and I think he embodied that. In addition to the 4 that I mentioned, they also had quarterback Carson Beck drafted in the 3rd round. Yeah. Then they had Markel Bell, Jacoby Thomas, Inez Cooper, and CJ Daniels all get drafted as well. Big losses, but I really needed to highlight those top 4. Now moving on to the transfer portal, I'll talk about their departures, and they didn't have many, and I think that speaks to the culture that Cristobal is building down there in Miami. To not have people leave even after you're a successful team is huge in this day and age of college football, where it seems like everyone is jumping ship all the time. The first notable loss is Emory Williams, and it's not like he would have played, but he was the backup quarterback last year. He's a talented kid, and it hurts to see him leave, but he does deserve the chance to start. Then there's Raul Aguirre, who may not have been a standout linebacker, but given that the room is not that deep, which we'll talk about, it's not a player you want to see leave for depth reasons. And then the other guys they lost were primarily depth pieces. I don't think there's many on this list that would have seen significant snaps, and I know that's oversimplifying it a bit. I'm sure there's some guy in here that the comments will tell me about, but at their core, they managed to keep the guys that they needed. Then when we talk transfer additions, they did not go crazy numbers-wise in the transfer portal, but they brought in key talent. They went strategic this year in their portal class, and they brought in guys that are all going to be difference makers, and I'll talk about a few of them here. Starting off with Damon Wilson transferring in from Missouri. I watched him a little bit in the offseason when I was watching Zion Young, but this video is my first chance to really dive into him as a player. He was highly productive last year with 9 total sacks, and I think that should translate at his new school. I'll be honest, I thought Wilson was just as good as Zion Young, and Zion Young went in the 2nd round of the NFL draft. I'm not saying those are even things. I also wasn't as high on Zion Young. I'm just saying that the potential of this player is extremely high. I don't know where Mizzou keeps finding these violent, powerful, huge edge rushers, but they do every single year, and Wilson is no exception to this. Start to sense a theme that on Miami's defense, they only go after violent physical players. Like this rep here is an absolute thing of beauty, watching him go through 2 blocks to ultimately get the sack. He sets up Formby perfectly to rip him down like this, like it's nothing, and then deliver the huge hit to Ty Simpson. I think Wilson is the perfect blend of twitch and power. He's still unrefined. I think that this year will do absolute numbers for him, though, getting to be coached by Jason Taylor and getting to play next to the studs that they have on the interior. You'll hear me say this throughout the video that I think that the edge room got worse, and that's no diss to the guys that they have. It's no diss to Wilson. Honestly, Wilson could lead the ACC in sacks and I wouldn't be surprised, but it's hard to not get worse when you lose the caliber of talent that they had. That's all I mean by that. They also grabbed Omar Thornton Jr. to help out the defense. I believe he'll be taking over the Jacoby Thomas role, and I think they found the perfect guy for it. I think they are similar players. At Boston College, he would line up all over the field, and he's already bought into the mindset needed to succeed at Miami. I would say 70% of my notes for him were just like, look, great tackle, because he rarely misses. And it's not just tackling, he hits hard. For being 5'11", 200 pounds, he makes plays like Keontae Scott did, like he's 6'2", 225. He is also really good in the open field too, not just in the box. I mean, look at this open field tackle to break down, corral the receiver, and still somehow deliver a big hit. I'm excited to watch him in orange and green. I think he's gonna be a great player. He's not some rangy, roaming type of safety. He only has 1 interception in the past 2 years, and I don't really think coverage is his strong suit. Granted, Boston College's defense last year was bad, so it's hard to tell what his potential truly is, and he always looked like the best guy out there, so we'll see what happens. Moving on from the defensive guys, I'll talk about Cooper Barkate, Darian Mensah's wide receiver 1 transferring over, and yes, we'll talk about Darian Mensah when we get to the roster, because if I talk quarterback now, that eliminates that entire position group, so gonna have to wait. Barcade is going to get labeled as a scrappy gym rat, chain mover type of receiver, but watch him play, dude. The guy is legit. He's also attended Harvard, Duke, and Miami, so not a bad resume of colleges. After watching some of these plays, I think I might convince myself that he and Malachi Toney are the best duo in the game. The first thing that pops about Barcade is that he has incredible hands. He can catch anything. He's really good over the middle of the field. He never seems afraid to take hits. The next thing I'll note is that Duke had him doing everything. He played in the slot, he played out wide, he played in line, he played in bunch sets. They would move him around everywhere, which leans into exactly how Shannon Dotson will line up this offense. He is really good in short areas against zone coverages. I think he navigates zones well, and he's the perfect guy for Mensa to have since they already have a very comfortable relationship with each other. I think he's a great route runner. I really like this route in the red zone where he creates a ton of separation through selling outside, breaking inside, and then snapping towards the middle of the field. Here he gets separation on a slant, and it turns into a great play. He is pretty good downfield at setting up DBs when they're playing off to get open deep, like here. Overall, I thought if there was a weakness to his route running though, it was downfield. He's solid at it, like it's not a huge negative, and they have guys that can do this, so it's not a concern. So while Barcade may not be the best deep threat of all time, luckily the next one we're going to talk about is, and that's going to help a lot. Ventravius Jacobs was one of the lesser talked about additions, and I get that, but that South Carolina team he played on was straight up not good, but he is very good. Even if it is a one-trick pony, it's the exact trick that they need. His speed and deep route running pop off the tape right away. He tracks the ball really well, which is a problem a lot of the speed guys have. Going back to Xavier Worthy at Texas, for example, I don't know if his ball tracking was the greatest thing in the world, but here we go. We see him great play to come back to the ball and ultimately come down with it. Another thing he does well for a smaller deep threat is fight for the football. This is an insane throw from Sellers, I will say that, but the catch, the body control to stay upright and score is incredible. This is basically the Ryan Williams Georgia play. I do think that he is a big play threat waiting to happen. Now that he has a quarterback and an offensive line that will actually give him time to get open, we're looking at a special situation. I don't know if he'll lead the team in receptions or anything, but he's going to make some big plays. The final transfer guy that I'll talk about is Cam Vaughn from West Virginia. Funny enough, he's an NCAA 26 Dynasty legend for me. I have no clue why, but he's also quite good in real life. I think Vaughn deserves more of a role than he's going to have at Miami, and he left West Virginia where he did have the chance to have a big role, so I don't really feel bad for him, but he made some special plays there, and I don't really know why he chose Miami, if I'm being honest with you. You can see here a one-handed touchdown catch. There's some really fun after the catch stuff he does as well. I know he'll carve himself some targets here. I think the talent is too good for that. I think he and Jacobs might be battling it out for that third receiver spot, and I think there's justification for them to split those snaps pretty evenly, with Barcade and Toney obviously being the main two guys. I'm really hopeful for Cam Vaughn. I think he's a very good player. They just have so much depth in that room that I don't know what it's going to look like for him, and I don't know, we'll see what happens, but I am rooting for him. Now we can move on from the transfers and talk about the team for 2026, starting off with another transfer in Darian Mensah at the quarterback position. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's safe to say that they upgraded with Darian Mensah over Carson Beck, and that is not a diss to Carson Beck. I actually thought he did a pretty good job with Miami last season, just being that game manager, get the ball out quick, execute their offense, make plays pre-snap, not post-snap, like know what you're getting yourself into, and Beck was great at that. But Darian Mensah is kind of like a perfect balance of Cam Ward and Carson Beck, where he's able to extend a little bit. He's able to make some crazy off-platform throws that Carson Beck wasn't able to do, but he also has a little more mental game than I will say Cam Ward did, and that's no diss to Cam Ward. I just think Darian Mensah is a really damn good quarterback. He is balanced. He's a good extender, at least to avoid sacks and buy himself time to get the ball or throw it away to a check down. He'll deliver some absolutely beautiful throws at every level of the field. He's going to be an upgrade over Beck because I think he brings the same willingness that Beck had to take what the defense is giving, but with better arm talent and care for the football downfield. The main knock people have on Mensah is arm strength, and I don't know if it's top of his class arm strength, but he can hit throws 50 yards to the air like it's ease. I don't think it'll hold him back at the college level. And he's so accurate here too that I'm just not really worried about it. Here's another deep ball shown. If you like watching this Mensah tape, you can find my full review for him on TikTok. It's a pretty long video where I break down more of the pros and cons, but do go check that out. I'm gonna throw this in here since I think he has the receivers this year to throw a lot more of these. Like, he already throws a great fade. Now imagine what he can do with the guys around him. One of my favorite things about him as a quarterback is that he isn't reckless with the ball, but he's willing to give his guys a chance and put the ball only where they can get it. Like, to roll out, find his receiver, and let this fly is a fantastic play. He can throw under duress pretty well. Here's another back shoulder ball while navigating a muddy pocket. Once again, putting it only where his guy can get it to work back and make the catch. Like, it doesn't matter what's happening in front of him. You hardly ever see him panic when things get rough. He's gonna keep his eyes up and deliver. That doesn't mean he's mistake-free, and we'll get to his flaws, but as an athlete, he's serviceable. He can extend, but he extends to throw, not to run. He had negative 32 rushing yards last year and only 1 touchdown, so It's not really his strong suit. They don't design him runs either. It's just not his game. I do think he can lock on to reads, and granted, he is still young, so that should improve, and hopefully Miami will scheme him up quick window throws like this, but it's something I'd like to see him get better at in terms of his NFL future. Overall though, the flaws are fine for a second-year quarterback, and watching a game from the beginning, middle, and end of the year kind of showed me the progress he made. Even given some young issues, I still think there's more accurate throws like this on 4th and 7 than there are mistakes. Overall, I think Miami got their guy. I think he's the quarterback that you can lean on to take you to a championship. No doubt about it. I just love quarterbacks that can throw with timing and touch, and that's exactly what he does. So obviously, my grade for this room is an S. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I really liked what I saw from Darian Mensah, and I think he's going to take this Miami offense to new heights with all of the weapons that he has around him. Moving on, the running back room is headlined by Mark Fletcher Jr., who had an insane surge during the college football playoffs last season. Truly, I don't think people realized that Fletcher was barely a starter at the beginning of the year, and there was a time when he wasn't even getting 10 touches a game, which is insane to say. I would say this run right here made Mark Fletcher some money. Obviously, he was a beast throughout all of the playoffs, but this is the run that kept them alive and allowed him to have more performances. And it was one of the top moments of the CFP for me. I think this is when non-Miami fans kind of woke up as to who he was. While Fletcher did have an elite offensive line last year, there's no way around that. We have to give him credit though, because he deserves these broken tackles. I mean, he is not a dude that you want to hit for 4 quarters straight. You got to wrap up because he is going to shed ankle tackles with ease. It gets exhausting, and I think that even if the offensive line naturally takes a step back this year, Fletcher is going to be fine because he can pick up right where he left off. He caused Sonny Styles 1 missed tackle of the year last year. He's hard to tackle, but I also don't want to discredit the fact that he's more agile than you would think too. He does the big running back stuff great, but he also has some quick feet behind the line, and I think he can still get better from here. Overall, I think Mark Fletcher is set for a very promising season at Miami. You can find my full review on him here. He's a special running back, and I don't think he should be too concerned about his starting role this year, but luckily he does have help, and that should keep those legs fresh for hopefully another 1,000-yard season, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's much more productive since he will be the #1 running back. The guy who's going to help him out though is Marty Brown, the junior who transferred in from North Dakota State in 2025. Brown had average stats last season as Fletcher's backup, starting in his absence for a game or two. He had a really nice playoff run though. I think we all think of Mark Fletcher, but Brown had 50 yards and a touchdown against Ole Miss. He's the perfect 5'10", 220-pound running back to just churn out tough yards, whether that's in short yardage, on the goal line, chewing clock on first down. That's what he was made to do. I think he's a really decisive runner. I mean this in the best way possible. He's the perfect RB2. He's always going to run through arm tackles, churn out 3 or 4 yards a pop, never going to put you in a negative spot. He's the perfect guy to spell Mark Fletcher. He's a tough player though. I don't want to discredit him. Here he breaks a tackle and spins his way for extra yardage. This is someone to watch out for and maybe get a slight uptick in production too, and if Fletcher goes down, I think you're in great hands with him. I think he's a good back. The third guy I'll talk about is Gerard Pringle, and let's just say this running back room is extremely deep because in this series, I don't think I've ever talked about 3 backs in a video. Normally it's the top 2. I'll talk about him though because he's someone who Miami fans are rightfully excited for. He's smaller, around 200 pounds, maybe less, but as you would expect, he's the faster, twitchier back, and there are times where he shows off some real dynamic abilities. He is a really good pass catcher. I think he does his best work after the catch because he's already out in space. He has the room to make people miss, where when taking a straight handoff on duo, that's a little harder to do. I'd imagine they'd get him a little more involved here next season since he only had a couple of catches last year. My main gripe on Pringle was that he just doesn't break tackles at the rate he needs to, and that's fine. He's a young player, he has room to grow, but he really does need to improve there to maximize what his potential is. Now, when he does break tackles, this is what it looks like. He could be a really dynamic back. I think he just needs to pack on some extra pounds and get stronger, and we might be looking at a future star if he sticks around after Mark Fletcher leaves. Overall, my running back room grade is an S, and if it was just Mark Fletcher, I'd probably give this an A, but because of the depth, I'm going with an S here. And we didn't even talk about Jordan Lyles, some of the other guys they have in that room. This room just stretches deep. If one guy goes down, you're good. If another one goes down, you're good. If another one goes down, you're probably still good. And you have Mark Fletcher capping off this room. Easy S for me, one of the best running back rooms in the country, and Darian Mensah is going to love being able to just hand the ball off and letting them do the work. Speaking of players that are going to help out Darian Mensah, let's move on to the wide receiver room, where it is headlined by Malachi Toney, the true sophomore returning after his freshman sensation season. And oh, Malachi Toney, where do I begin? The kid is absolutely electric. He might be the best slot receiver in the game as a true freshman. He has it all. He has precise route running, the speed like he showcases here, the ball skills, the toughness. I struggle to think of anything that he can't do. He had 109 catches for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns as a freshman. I could sit here and make a whole video about him, but I'm gonna try my best to trim it down a little bit, but it goes without saying that he is special, truly special. They would line Tony up all over the field for better or for worse, but they would use him out of the backfield to get him the ball in space, since the after the catch is really where he does some of his best work. He reminds me of Antonio Brown, and I understand the Tyreek Hill comp because of the way he moves with his burst after the catch, but he's not Tyreek Hill, and I'm not saying he's Antonio Brown either, which thank God for his mental sake. On the field though, he plays like Brown did, just this undersized guy who can make ridiculous plays that you would never expect him to do. The ball skills, concentration, the way he can contort his body is special. I wish he was draft eligible because I cannot wait to sit down and do a full review on him and actually really watch this tape. But watching him on TV and for this video, it's apparent that he is different. He also wants to block. I can't tell you how many of these smaller guys just seem disinterested, but they'll have him play in bunch sets where they'll have him motion in and crack block. He's really good at it for how small he is. And we'll discuss this in the scheme section, but they had him doing all kinds of random stuff, like just for the love of the game. Here he throws a nice ball downfield, but he had 2 passing touchdowns last year on 7 attempts, so this wasn't really rare. So yeah, Tony is a very special player. I didn't grade him because he's not draft eligible, but if he did, I would have an easy first-round grade on him, and that was as a true freshman. I almost guarantee that that would be the case, and I can't wait to watch him more. The other guy they have returning is Joshua Moore. He's that big body, contested catch type of receiver, so I'd imagine he still sees the field in certain situations depending on what's needed. He's 6'4", 220 pounds, easily the biggest receiver on the team. He only had 17 catches for 210 yards last season and a pair of touchdowns as a sophomore, and if they hadn't brought in all these other guys, I'd say his snaps should increase, but I don't know if they will. I think he will be more of a situational kind of guy. Regardless though, he's great at what he does. His ability to track the ball downfield and just out-muscle guys is a skill set that Darian Mensah will love to have. And I'd imagine his stats increase a little bit, but the timing of his big plays is what's going to matter for this team. He is clutch. My grade for this room is an S, another S tier grade for the offense, because they have everything that you were looking for. They're one of the most complete wide receiver rooms in the country. You have Cooper Barkate, you have Malachi Toney, you have Andrevius Jacobs, you have Cam Vaughn, you have Joshua Moore, who I just talked about. The list goes on and on. They have a receiver that can do every type of thing that you want, and like the running back room, they are deep. And honestly, Malachi Toney alone might make this room an S, but when you throw in all of that other talent, this room is scary, and I'm excited to see what they are going to cook up on the offense, and I can't wait to talk about the scheme because you'll really start to see how they're going to use these weapons. For the tight end room, they return one fringe starter in Elijah Lofton. He'll be a junior. He's had average production in his career with 23 catches for 218 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. The other tight ends on the roster got nothing, so this will probably be the guy starting unless I'm missing a spring camp hero. I think he's a solid blocker. You can watch him get out and turn this defensive end away from the play, and that's harder than it looks for a tight end to get the right angle and have the strength to do this. As a receiver, I think he left some to be desired. He dropped 2 screen passes in this NC State game, and in the other games I watched, there really wasn't much that popped off the tape. I don't know how he dropped this one, man. This is not good. I think he's a good athlete though. Like, this is a real route to get open. He shows flashes of real speed to pull away and then muscles his way into the end zone. The flashes for him are there, but on average, I don't think he's a huge difference maker type of a player. Now, I did read a report that apparently he dropped 10 pounds this offseason after the injury he suffered in the Fiesta Bowl and now weighs around 240 pounds. That could be a blessing in disguise because I think Miami will want to lean into his pass catching side, and he's already a really good athlete, so it makes sense if you drop a bit of weight, you're able to be quicker and faster without losing the strength. He could take a jump as a receiver. Another little note there is that Darian Mensah does love to use the tight end. I think his starting tight end at Duke had over 40 catches last season, so I'd imagine if Lofton is the starter, he's gonna see some targets from Mensah, and he better be prepared for that. Overall though, my grade for the room is a C. It's kind of similar to the Ole Miss video where it's like, there's enough there for me to give it a grade, but I'm not exactly excited about the guys that they have. There's no one there where I'm like, oh, that's intriguing, that has a lot of potential, that could be good. And yeah, Elijah Lofton's a fine player, but there's really no one in this room that gets me super excited about it. Going with the C, but I don't know, it's not the most crucial thing in the world. And finally, we'll talk about the offensive line, and we'll start off with Jackson Cantwell, the true freshman starting left tackle. And I typically don't talk about high school players, but with him, I have to, because there's no one else I can. But he's 6'8", 325 pounds, and he's expected to have a Joe Alt-esque career. He will be the starter, he'll be thrown into the fire, and he will have to rise to the challenge. Luckily for him, the first few weeks of the season are not too difficult, so we'll have the chance to kind of ease into things, but I'd expect some growing pains. He is a true freshman. Even if he is very, very, very good and very talented, you're gonna notice he's a freshman at times. It's just gonna happen. Someone I can talk about is Samson Unkanlola, who will be playing one of the guard spots for the team. He started the Cotton Bowl last year, so we have real game tape on him. He is huge, 6'6", 330 pounds. He's picking up right where they left off with these massive linemen. I thought he excelled on double teams, which is the bread and butter of this unit. They love to run duo where they can just overwhelm you with the sheer size. And then they coach these guys to peel off well and pick up second level blockers. I think he looked athletic for the weight. I think he did a good job of sealing this D tackle on this run. It's not exceptional, out of this world play, but when judging guys with limited time, the mindset is more, where do I see potential and what can you do rather than what can you not do. I also thought he looked solid in pass pro. I think he held his own during his snaps against an extremely talented front from Ohio State, and I really wouldn't be all too concerned if I was a fan. I think he's played on big stages before, and you hope he can do it again. The projected starter at center is Ryan Rodriguez. He appeared in all 16 games last season, but he saw major action against USF, so I watched some of that to see what he can do. He's a redshirt senior. He actually was supposed to start in 2024 before tearing his ACL in their opening game, and then he spent most of 2025 just recovering and getting back up to speed. I thought he looked good in his limited reps. It's hard to judge offensive linemen based on cleanup duty. Like, everyone knows you're running the ball. Everyone on defense just wants to go home at this point because you're losing. And if you're on offense, you have motivation to show what you can do since it's your only time on the field. He's a little smaller than the average Miami offensive lineman, just 6'2", 300 pounds, but they had a similar situation with their center last year, so not really anything that stands out. I think there's reason to be nervous, but he's got experience, he's got age, which is important at the offensive line position, and he's coached by this staff, so have a little faith. According to our lads, redshirt freshman Max Buchanan will be taking the spot at right guard. He played sparingly last year. He was a 4-star recruit though, so there's enough talent to be excited about, but I don't have much tape to show you. He's similar to Ryan Rodriguez, performed about what you would expect for a backup lineman against inferior competition. There's not a ton to write home on. I thought he looked good. I don't have any complaints on him, but nothing really stood out good or bad. Like I said, he's a former top 150 player, so there's reason to believe he'll be good, but we'll have to see what he looks like when he goes up against that upper tier of competition. Finally, Matthew McCoy is the only returning starter from this unit. Not at tackle, but on the line. He'll be sliding over to tackle for the Hurricanes now, moving over from the interior, and it's a really interesting move for me. I'm excited for him. He clears people out against the run, dude. I thought this was a strong suit of his. It'll be fun to watch him do this to defensive ends and linebackers next year, as you'd imagine he gets more favorable matchups from a size and strength perspective. He did a really admirable job handling Caden McDonald, who I had as the best interior lineman in last year's draft. He makes the tackle here, but it's not before McCoy drives him 5 yards off the ball, and I'll take that every time. I'm a little worried about the athletic adjustment to tackle, so I tried to find clips of him pulling, and where there wasn't a ton in the games that I watched, I thought he looked good when he was asked to do it. He's not out here lumbering around. I think he moves pretty well. I'm excited for McCoy. I think the move to tackle is good, and ultimately if it doesn't work, then you know you have a really good guard and you can move some other people around. I wish I saw a little more in pass pro, but I'll keep saying this, with this staff, I just trust that it's gonna work. My grade for this unit is an A, and I know I don't grade on potential, but I do factor in coaching, and I do factor in scheme. Miami is one of those teams now where I just trust that they're gonna churn out good offensive lines. They didn't bring in a ton of transfers who never played together, and all these guys outside of Cantwell have been in this program. They know the standard the coaches have set, and I don't think Mirabal or Cristobal would put a unit on the field that they did not trust. For my overall grade for the offense is an S. And I thought about that, I debated it, but then I realized I gave their quarterback an S, I gave their running back room an S, and I gave their receiver room an S with an A offensive line. That's an S tier offense, man. You really can't get much better than what Miami is fielding. Maybe you could critique the offensive line with the depth that they have. Maybe you could critique the tight end position, but dude, it is going to be sparks. They're going to score points. It's going to be very fun to watch as a neutral fan. And if you're a Miami fan, get excited. Go buy that Darian Mensah jersey now, because I guarantee you are going to want to have one at the end of the season. Moving on to the defense, we'll kick it off with the defensive line, and right off the bat, I think this unit is the opposite of last year. Last year, you had good interior guys with elite edge guys. Well, now I think you have those good interior guys that have developed into elite interior guys, and the edge rushers are now just good, which is not a bad thing at all. To start is one of the more unsung heroes of Miami's defense last year in Ahmad Moten, who decided to return for his senior year and forgo the NFL draft. I thought he was dominant against Ohio State. I mean, this guard could not touch him the whole night. I've done a full review of Moten on my TikTok as well, so feel free to go and check that out. This was one of the first plays of the game. Ruben Bain does a great job of setting the edge, but the initial burst to get through the lane and completely cut off the backside from Moten is what makes this back cut right into Bain. He has an insanely quick get off. I mean, literally the first play against Pitt is him just exploding off the football, and this guard never had a chance to block him because he's in the backfield almost instantly. He works the hand so well. Like here we see an instant win against Notre Dame where not only does he win the hand fight, he's athletic and quick enough to work around the guard and then force his Carr to roll out and throw the ball away. He has a really powerful rip move. You can watch it here where this guard starts to get on the move, but Moten is so fast with the hands, he gets in the pads and just rips him down. As a pass rusher, he really does shine. He had 4.5 sacks last season, but he had the 15th highest pass rush win weight of any defensive tackle in the Power 4. Now granted, it helps when you're playing with the guys he played with, but it's still fantastic to see. So yeah, he's one of the best defensive tackles in the sport, hence my grade for him that you'll see on the screen, but Miami doesn't just have one guy like this, they have two with his teammate in Justin Scott. Justin Scott has gotten Jalen Carter comps by some people in the media, and I hate that. Not that it's bad, but come on guys, don't compare the kid to Jalen Carter right now. Could he be? Yes, but those type of expectations are just setting him up to fail in your own eyes. I think he is very strong. He holds the point so well, it's almost absurd. He's just so difficult to move, and if you can move him, he's athletic enough to work his way around you and find a way to impact the play. This play shows off some of the strengths he has as he just reels in the ball carrier one-handed like it's nothing. He uses every inch of that 6'4" frame to his advantage, and he's a little smaller than Moton, but he is more of the run stuffer. He does the dirty work, like he probably won't blow up the stat sheet. He stacks linemen really well. I think he can improve his pad level a bit. You see here he kind of gets stood up straight, but dude, he's so strong that it really doesn't matter. And I'm mentioning this as a critique, but sometimes guys just make their own way and they're really damn good at their jobs. Finally, I think he does a very good job of splitting defenders, shooting gaps. I've talked about his ability to hold his ground, but he can get upfield too. And this duo is going to be special. And I think they're going to be a key piece to this defensive unit. For the returning edge guys, we have Marquise Lightfoot, who played in rotation last year. I think he had an underrated impact, especially in the playoffs. He looks pretty good, man. I think he'll be that pass rush specialist style of defensive end for Miami. He was light, unironically, playing around 230 pounds, but he has a 6'5" frame that I'd imagine Miami packed some weight onto this offseason, given the fact he was a freshman last year. Naturally, at this weight, I think he needs to get better in his consistency playing the run, but this is fine. He was a freshman defensive end playing behind two of the best in the sport. Like, no shade on him at all. He has so much time to morph into an elite player. If Jason Taylor can teach him a true pass rush bag, this is a guy I think could make a splash. I think we're talking about him very highly next season. I'm excited to see what he puts together. He was also really good in coverage too, just a side note there. He would drop back a lot when he was on the field, so it's clear that they trust him, and you can see him make a really good tackle here. The final guy that I'll talk about is Armando Blunt. He's this kind of hybrid defensive end, three technique style of player. He's 6'4", 265 pounds. He has experience from last year playing both on the outside like a traditional defensive end and on the interior. He will probably fill the Ruben Bain role of the strong side defensive end when he's on the field, which we'll discuss a little more later. I think he's more of that hold the point, set the edge, beat up blocker style of player. They like him. I think he'll play a lot more next year. I think a heavy dose of Damon Wilson, but I think he and Lightfoot can both see the field since they play different roles. Here's an example of him lining up inside both Bain and Mesidor last season against Florida. I think we'll continue to do stuff like this. I don't have too many comments on Blunt outside of his versatility. I think we just need to see more from him. I believe in the talent, but he's still relatively unproven, and he was just a sophomore, so we'll see what happens. My grade for the defensive line unit is an S. I really don't think that's too much to say. They have the chance to have two defensive tackles taken off the board in the first round, and possibly another one with Damon Wilson. I think if Damon Wilson hits his stride under Jason Taylor, we could be talking about him as a late first round pick, probably a day two guy for sure. So comfortable S tier for me. I think they have elite players here, and while they might not be as good as last year, they're still gonna be great. Next, we'll talk their linebackers, starting off with Mohamed Toure. He is one of these does not care if he lives or dies style of linebackers that I love. He's 6'2", 236 pounds, and he's a 7th year senior. And while I may disagree wholeheartedly with that, don't hate the player, hate the game. He plays with his hair on fire, yes, but you can tell he's very well coached, he's disciplined, he is patient when filling the run, he's patient to read his blocks, identify the running lane, and then crash downhill to meet the back. He's really good at still playing violent while using his eyes. They would blitz him a decent amount. You can see a delayed blitz here, he gets a sack. He played at Rutgers before and he had 4 sacks 3 years in a row, so it is a key aspect of his game. It's important to highlight. I think he is better as a run stuffer than he is in coverage, and that's fine, but when we talk about the next guy, you'll kind of realize that they don't have an elite coverage backer. Not to say someone can't emerge, but on paper, that's the weakness here. Overall though, you love having Toure back. He will be NFL bound, even if it's as a day 3 guy, and I think he's a plus starter for this team. I think it's very exciting to watch him. The other projected starter is Chase Smith. Chase Smith is fine. There's nothing on his tape that stands out as a glaring red flag to me, but there's also nothing that stands out as anything special. He's another UNC, I think in his 6th year of college football, and his most productive season was in 2025 with just 31 tackles, but he did recover 2 fumbles, so he's a late bloomer. I think this is a slight step back from the duo of Toure and Bisonte last year, but I think it's fine. These guys are solid. I do think there's upside for Toure to be one of the better linebackers in the ACC. He might be a second-team All-ACC guy, but I don't know, we'll see what he can do if he can improve in coverage. With that said, my grade for the room is a B. Realistically speaking, I think the linebacker core is one of their weaker units, probably the second weakest behind tight end. And it's no diss to them. I think these guys are fine players. There's just no one out there that's like, yeah, that's a huge impact defender. I think they both just do their jobs very well. They make plays when they need to. They stop the run pretty effectively. No complaints about them, just nothing special. In the secondary, you will see Omar Thornton Jr. starting from the portal, but all the other guys are ones that they've kept. They rotate 3 corners pretty consistently, so I'll start off with Ethan O'Connor, my favorite of the group. He was a redshirt sophomore last season, transferring in from Washington State, where he had 12 games in 2024. I really like watching him play. I think he's fast, he is lanky, he's got exactly what you're looking for in that cover 3 corner style of build. I think he basically saves a touchdown with his speed on this rep. For his size, he is physical. He has plenty of big hits in the games that I watched. He's 6'1", 180 pounds, so he's not tiny, but he's not big. It's just kind of a mindset thing for him. He does not care. I think he has a very quick reaction time. This is another great pass breakup against Texas A&M on 3rd down in the red zone. They create a lot of traffic here, but he stays disciplined. He gets in there to make a huge play. There's a lot to like with him. I know he had that one play against Charlie Becker in the national championship, but do not judge him for that. Judge him on the body of work he put together during the season, which was very good. Next up is the man who changed his name from OJ to Roman Sauce. I'm not sure what the correlation is, but he is now Roman Sauce Frederic, and I thought he had an up and down year. It's odd. I think his game against Ohio State was one of the best of the year. He looked really sharp in man coverage against the elite duo of Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. If you want to see the highs of Frederic, then this is the game for you. I thought he did a great job. The problem is in the other games, I thought he was very inconsistent. He would miss tackles, he got cooked pretty badly on busted coverages. I still think he needs some work. He obviously has potential, but improvement does need to happen. And I know Miami fans were a bit frustrated with him, but luckily you have a very talented secondary, and when Frederic isn't playing his best, there's plenty of other guys that can come in and pick up the slack, like the final one that I'll mention in Xavier Lucas, who transferred over from Wisconsin. Lucas is a South Florida native, so happy for him that he gets to play on a national championship team from his hometown. It's kind of a full circle moment. He is the bigger bodied press man corner. He excels at jamming guys at the line. He's basically 6'2", 200 pounds, and he's got a lot of length in the arms. Naturally, he is a little more stiff than the other guys are. It's not detrimental, but he's just not as twitched up as Ethan O'Connor is, and that's typically the style of corner that I like to watch. He is fast though. He ran a 10.49 100-meter dash in high school. Like, the dude can fly. So when you have that size and that speed, naturally you will be heavily talked about as a corner prospect. You can see it here subtly as he flies downfield, trusts his eyes, and nearly picks this off against Ole Miss. He had a really nice pass breakup against A&M, using that speed to catch up with the receiver, and then using that physicality to blanket Craver and disrupt the play. He had a rough moment against Jeremiah Smith in the Cotton Bowl, but outside of that, he's very solid, and it sucks he has to live with that one. He had 1 interception last season, but I think he has a nose for the football. It would not surprise me if you see that increase next year. I mean, I showed you a play where he was half a step away from one. I really like his potential in that area. Now, stepping back from their outside corners, let's jump inside with Bryce Fitzgerald. The debate for me is who will be playing nickel and who is playing the former Jacoby Thomas role at strong safety. I mentioned this earlier and I'll say it again, I think you'll see a mix, but it will probably be returning sophomore Bryce Fitzgerald at nickel. And if you want to see what this looks like, we can watch the Pitt game. He had 6 interceptions last year, and while some of them were luck, he honestly could have had more. Like this play, he showcases great burst and closing speed to almost pick this off. He did get beat in this game, but he was a true freshman last year, and for him to have as much success as he did with limited snaps, this is a really good player, man, and I'm excited to see what he can do as a full-time starter. The ball just seems to find him. He has very good eyes. You can already tell he has a good feel for zone coverage, and I think he's someone that will continue to evolve, keep getting bigger and stronger, and you might have an elite player. To go with that, I think he should add on a little bit of weight, as he's only around 170 pounds right now. I keep talking about the interceptions, but that's what stood out. He has real receiver-like ball skills. If quarterbacks keep throwing at him, he's gonna keep coming down with it, which is why I think he will need to improve at some of the other aspects of his game, because I don't think we'll see as many targets at him in 2026. The final secondary guy that I'll mention is free safety Zechariah Poyser. I've done a TikTok film review on him, so check that out if you want some more in-depth analysis. He was their single high player, their middle field safety, and their most common coverage, cover 3. He really has fast hips. He can turn and run totally fine. I think if something happens and he has to play in the box more and man up on tight ends and running backs, he can do that for sure. He may primarily play deep, but don't get it twisted. He is that 6'2", 200-pound enforcer, and he hits like a strong safety. Poyser runs through contact. I don't know what these coaches inject them with, what they tell them, what they play in the locker room, but this team is so physical, and Poyser is no exception. He will destroy ball carriers in space, no matter who they are. He also defies angles. I honestly wasn't sure if he had it here, but he shows off that speed to get down here and chop the runner down. Overall, I really like Poyser, and it was his first year at the Power 4 level last season, and I think he performed admirably. He has the chance to take a huge step this year. He's got plenty of talent around him. His job shouldn't be too hard, and you kind of hope some turnover luck finds him because I don't think he had any interceptions last year. My overall grade for the secondary is an A, and I really wanted to hand out an S, but I think there are fair questions to be asked on what it will look like without Keontae Scott and Jacoby Thomas. Ideally, Omar Thornton and Bryce Fitzgerald are upgrades, but we don't know, and for Arun to be an S, I need to have an S-tier player stand out 100%. I am all in on them. And I don't know if there's a guy that I see as that like elite level. I see a ton of really good players in this secondary. And maybe one of these corners becomes locked down. Maybe one of these safeties does become that eraser. Maybe they will, but as of now on the tape, I don't know if I see it, and I hope someone takes the jump. Now that we've gone through the roster, we can talk about their scheme. And I'm gonna start off with the defense because Miami's defense is pretty serious. We just talked about the guys that are gonna be playing in this, but let's talk about what Corey Heatherman wants to do. They run this defense on physicality and violence. They do some interesting things with their front, but overall, this defense isn't impossible to beat. They're not coming out here with crazy simulated pressures. They're not rotating into crazy coverages like Ohio State. And yes, they will do those things occasionally, but their identity is physicality and mindset. I mean, this play isn't special. It's just Jacoby Thomas being an absolute animal, and that's where they make their money. To start off, they are a heavy cover 3 football team, literally in the top 5 of FBS usage last season. They have a free safety, Poiser, who keeps the middle field closed, and then they use that boundary safety or the strong safety as kind of the underneath lurking defender. There are 2 key types of cover 3 that Miami will run, the match version and the bail version. Bail is more traditional, the corners drop back into deep thirds, and that free safety covers the middle third as you see here. This one is a little more non-traditional since we will get the drop from the nickel rather than the field corner, but the concept is the same. Match is a little more complicated, where those outside corners are basically in man-to-man, similar to what we talked about in the Ole Miss video. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. The outside corners will take anything vertical past 10 yards. If it is under 10 yards, then they'll generally pass off in-breaking routes to the underneath defenders. Here we see these corners take their men, but the underneath defenders are in zone. They will also run man-to-man coverage, just straight cover 1. They did this a fair amount against Ohio State, which actually takes some balls, and the results they got were very impressive, but it was a staple against the less talented teams. They are a base nickel team. They keep 5 DBs on the field almost all the time, but the DB is a strong term for how they play the nickel. It's important to designate that the nickel and the strong safety in this defense, they play very similar roles. Both guys are typically the apex defender, which is the player in between the outside corner and the defensive end, and their responsibilities in coverage and against the run are basically the same. The key distinction for Miami is that the nickel typically plays to the field side because he has to cover a lot more ground. Last year, this was Keontae Scott. This year, it will be Bryce Fitzgerald, and then you'll probably see Omar Thornton as that safety. This is what Jacoby Thomas did last year, and you can see why he's gonna fill that role. They're very similar players. Against 3 receiver sets, you will typically see them line up on the same side, so you can create plays like this where they fire the nickel and the safety is there to clean up. But then in balance sets, you can trust him in man coverage on slot receivers who in modern college football, those are some of the best players and athletes on the field. So you want your nickel to be a really good corner, but you'll see later he also has to be essentially a linebacker. In cover 3, these are the guys who are typically responsible for the hook curl or curl flat windows. For those who don't know what these are, you could typically divide up the field like this. The hook curl is that inside window and the curl flat is that outside window. Cover 3 can be weak here because naturally these windows will get open. It's particularly weak in the flats, showcased here, because if we can get 4 underneath defenders in conflict and then move this outside defender inside, we clear up space for quick checkdowns like this to pick up an easy 5 or 6 yards. Now, when we get into key positions and alignments, know that the nickel and the defensive end are the key to this style of defense working. They typically run an under front or a bench front with their defensive line. The key here is that it actually takes the 3 technique defensive tackle, who is typically your more athletic, movable, pass rush focused guy. For Miami, it's Ahmad Moten, and they put him on the boundary side, which is the short side of the field, away from the passing strength. Now, what you'll notice too is that they play the bigger defensive end, typically the stronger guy, to the field side. The reasoning behind this is because you really do not want to lose the edge on the field side. If you have a guy who's going to get moved or can't set an edge, you will get torn up by outside runs. And I'll talk about this in a minute. Miami was fortunate enough to have an insane nickel that could also do this, and it basically rendered running to that side of the field impossible. A lot of the most successful runs against Miami came through the B gap, as you see here. If you can clear out the linebacker, which we'll talk about, in theory, you have a wide open gap because of the way that these players are aligned. Naturally, plays like Power do a really good job of exploiting this, because if you can get a puller coming through, he's gonna be able to clear out 99% of players that are in his way. Now, obviously, defenses adjust and you can't just spam this, but it's effective, demonstrated here. This is what a successful rep for this defense is supposed to look like with this alignment. You get your defensive end off his block, you get your linebacker able to blow up his blocker, and you effectively shut down every running lane, and you can't get outside because of the nickel. It's a lot easier to do condensed like this, but this is the vision, this is the way. Now, while these interior runs work if the backers get out of position, they hardly ever do to the outside, because if you want to work towards the side of the field, the strong side of the formation, Miami uses the nickel as the 5th defensive lineman. They asked a lot of Keontae Scott, and he did it so successfully that the apex defender essentially turns into the last line of defense on the edge. And when you do this, you really let these lanes open up for the linebackers to fill, because you have all these gaps open and the linebackers can just easily shoot them. I mean, Ohio State tried everything to get to the sideline, and because of Keontae Scott, none of it worked. I don't know if people realize just how important he was for this team. He was a phenomenal player. Now, I just talked about all these rules and all these alignments, but sometimes Heatherman just said, to hell with that, and he would line up Keontae Scott, Ruben Bain, and Akeem Mesidor all on the same side, all on the passing strength. In this play, there's no defensive tackle on the field. Why, you ask? I mean, watch the results. For creating pressure, they blitz a lot. They will sim pressure sometimes, but most of the time they're gonna try and bring more than you can handle. They do run these delayed blitzers from their linebackers, like I showed earlier with Torrey. They were a blitz-heavy team, but they didn't rely on it, and that's because they had dudes like this where you legit didn't need to, because no matter what, they were going to clean up. And I expect that to change a little bit this year with the defensive ends that they have. They might lean more into blitzing. One thing that they do spam though, and the one thing that is genuinely predictable, is their use of the nickel blitz. Keontae Scott was a glorified pass rusher. He even cross-trained with them at practice apparently. Bryce Fitzgerald, get ready to do this a whole lot, buddy, and you better like it quick because you are going to be blitzing a lot off that side. And then to stop the run, Miami teaches patience from linebackers. Once again, violence from the defensive line, patience from linebackers. We talked about the nickels rule a little bit earlier, but the linebacker's job is to wait. They teach a fallback technique where you basically let the defensive line eat gaps. It's their job to take on the offensive line, and the linebackers are taught not to crash. They're taught to watch. They read the play, they attack where the football should bounce to. This is the one unit that is not aggressive, and I think that's good because, in my opinion, this is the best way to teach linebackers. You read and react. You don't just crash to crash. And this is why you hardly ever see them bust gaps, because they're not looking to crash at the second level. They let the animals up front eat, and then these guys come and clean up the scraps. And if you get past them, well, you know the safeties are gonna do it too, and that's why they're so successful. Hopefully all of that helps you understand Miami's defense a little bit more. That was a lot of information very quickly, and I'd love to sit here and do an hour just talking about the scheme, but hopefully in those few minutes you understand either your team's defense a little more, or if you're watching this as a neutral, you're just understanding things about football more. I think that's really my main goal with these videos. For the offense, there are a lot of layers to unpack, and it all starts up front with Shannon Dawson and that crazy offensive mind that he has. He comes from the air raid system, which has had 100,000 evolutions over the years, but simply put, think 3 to 4 receiver sets, generally fast-paced tempo, drawn up, quick completions, using spacing to help players get open. A common misconception of the air raid is that you can't have a successful run game. I just don't think that's true. Typically, these air raid teams actually do have successful run games. You just never really hear about it because all the highlights are them just like spamming it down the field, but you gotta be able to run the ball in order to do that and be able to clear out the box. Typically, these air raid teams will have very simple run games. That's the key, and that's true for Miami. They don't do a whole lot of running styles like Indiana does, for instance. They have a couple bread and butter plays that they are really, really, really good at. Shannon Dawson is a multiple coach. He molds his offense to his quarterback, to the playmakers that he has. He's not gonna sit out there and just make a quarterback do something that he's uncomfortable with, and that's one of his key strengths as an offensive coordinator. That's why quarterbacks like playing for him. Darian Mensah said at Media Days that it's basically Mensah's offense. Like, he's the one who gets to dictate the style of plays that they run, but that doesn't mean Shannon Dawson doesn't have things he wants to do, and we'll talk about that now. I think in 2026, you're gonna see a mix of both styles of offenses that he's ran the past 2 years. In 2025, it was that get the ball out quick, more traditional air raid, use the spacing style of offense, and then in 2024, it was more of the air it out, chuck it downfield. We have Cam Ward, he can buy time, he can make things happen. With Mensah, he can do both. Now, while these are traditional air raid principles, he has his own little wrinkles that he loves to use, and I'll cover those first. The one key thing is their alignments. This is technically 11 personnel, their staple, but we have a tight end and a running back lined up in the backfield. They'll do the same thing with Malachi Toney. They'll also run 21 personnel and bring 2 running backs on the field. Truly, if you want an example of legit every formation that could exist in football, watch the Texas A&M game. They were just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what worked. One of the things they did, which actually stopped after the A&M game, thank God, was the Malachi Toney at Wildcat. And I mean, at this point, we're doing it just to do it. I about threw a brick at my TV when I was watching this playoff game because they just kept trying this and it did not work. And sometimes Dawson needs to tone it down a bit with the crazy stuff. Here's a good example of what I was talking about before. We get 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end. We're just gonna draw up something really simple and easy completion to start the football game. Do more of this. No more Malachi Tony at Wildcat, please. Here's another good one where we get 11 personnel with the tight end lined up in the slot. They don't really rely on the tight end as an inline blocker despite how well and how much they run the football, which I promise we will get to. One of the concepts they run a lot of is mesh, and while everyone runs mesh, it's one of those traditional air raid staples that they stick to. We get crossing routes here and an out route from CJ Daniels, which Beck places nicely. It's a passing game really built on timing and execution. The final thing you need to know about the formations and the personnel is that they love to use bunch sets. For those who don't know, bunch sets create chaos for the secondary. If you're going to play man, the route concepts out of a bunch are designed to create natural pick or rub scenarios and get defenders having to cross space in traffic. And if you're gonna play zone, the goal is to stress your eye discipline and your communication. What you saw in the last play was a wide bunch. They play a lot of tight bunch sets too, closer to the line. The defense actually plays this fine, but you can see how it freezes the corners because they have to diagnose what's happening in front of them and make a decision. For the offense, they already know the route, so they're one step ahead. Still though, these are the quick hitting, get the ball out, move the chain style of plays that run this offense. This is a perfect example of what happens when you play man versus bunch. We're gonna get a dig from the 2, a streak from the 3, and then these are going to clear out space for Malachi Tony to leak out into the flat. And the guy manned up on Tony can't get there because of the traffic in front of him. And when you have Malachi Tony, this turns into a touchdown. Now, I don't want to make it seem like all they do is just run hitches and out routes. They will take shots when they have the chance. If they get a matchup like one-on-one, Dawson is not afraid to air it out like you see here. Here we get stacks on either side, and we basically get a post from the tight end. Dawson really likes dialing up these throws over the middle. They are risky, and it takes near perfect timing to make it work. And even when you do, you can get your guys killed. And they run this concept later, and Beck does not throw the ball next time because he did get his guy killed. I am very sorry this Ole Miss game was recorded on a potato, but I do think it's worth watching, so you'll just have to bear with me for a minute. Let's talk about their run game, because that is very important to this team. They will get a lot heavier here. This is when they'll bring in their 2 tight end packages, but I wouldn't say having 2 tight ends is really essential for the scheme to work, but if they have it, they'll take advantage of it. They don't utilize a ton of zone scheme runs, but they will throw them in as a changeup. I actually think they had very successful wide zone reps like the one you're watching now. Mark Fletcher is that natural slasher style of back, and I think they could utilize this more next year. Here we get what looks to me like ISO, which is a man scheme run. Every offensive blocker has a defender that they are assigned to block. Maui Noah has this end, Cooper has this backer, Brockermeyer has this tackle, McCoy has this tackle, Bell's their backer, and yeah, you get the point. They're just going to try and maul you. We see it here. They get immediate push up front, and Fletcher is able to just drive the pile forward and pick up a clean 5 yards on first down. And to absolutely no one's surprise, they do the same thing for the next 4 plays until Marty Brown eventually punches it in with the second effort. It's complementary. The backs and the line play so well together and make it nearly impossible to stop them in short yardage, but they're not doing anything fancy. Now, a lot of the times they'll run duo and just pick up 3 or 4 yards, but it really is true that it grinds down the defense because Mark Fletcher in this run game would just come alive in the 3rd and 4th quarters. Getting beat up front like this just sucks, and at some point you'll break down. Fletcher had 133 yards in this game without a run over 20 yards. It's just constant pressure on you. The final note is that they do utilize the screen game as an extension of the run. They have some really cool designs in there too, but the highlight is just Malachi Tony. Like if I pause the play here, I don't think many people are thinking touchdown, but hey, the magic of Malachi Tony turns it into one. And sometimes you just gotta let your big time players make big time plays. So to sum it up for Miami's offense, I would say it like this. Dawson incorporates air raid principles into non-traditional sets, and while he throws a lot of eye candy at you, the actual passing game concepts are relatively simple. Get guys open through chaos, utilize shallow crossers, quick outs, quick hitches, get the ball to your guys in space, and let them eat. Sometimes I do wish I had more time to get into the specific route concepts that they call or the specific tempo of play calling that they'll run, but don't really have the time in this video to get into that. Now let's talk about Miami's schedule. And as you probably know, it's not the most difficult thing in the world, but it's not unlike Mario Cristobal teams to lose games that they shouldn't, sometimes multiple games that they shouldn't. I don't predict things based on chaos like that. I use logical predictions here, so I'm not gonna predict them to lose to Stanford or something, but it definitely could happen. Speaking of Stanford, they open up on a Friday night on the road against Stanford. Unfortunately, as a lifelong Stanford fan, this is not a trap game. This is an ass kicking. Next, they play Florida A&M, another win. Then they go on the road to Wake Forest on yet another Friday night. And dude, what is with these Friday night games? Can the ACC not get any better media deal? Then they get Central Michigan, yet again, another win. A really interesting game on their schedule is this matchup against Clemson at Clemson. Call me crazy, I can see them losing this game. I think Clemson is such a strange program that they have talent, they have a head coach, they've won championships, they've just been rapidly declining. And I think Dabo still has some left in the tank. I think this team is good enough to beat Miami talent-wise, and at home, I think they get it done. It's a weird loss, it would be a close loss, but it's a statement for Clemson and kind of a come to Jesus moment for the Hurricanes after cruising through their first few games. Then they get Florida State back at home, and it wouldn't surprise me if this is the game that ends Mike Norvell's tenure at Florida State. I think they clean up here. Then they get Pitt at home, and as tough as Pitt teams can be, I just don't see them losing to Pitt. I think they win yet again. After this, they go back-to-back road games on the road at North Carolina, and dude, this could be 63-0, 70-0. I mean, Miami is going to blow them out of the water. Finally, we make it to the big game against Notre Dame, and here I have them winning. I said this in the Notre Dame video. I will break this video down in depth on the channel the week of the game. This is a massive matchup. It will have playoff implications for both sides, and I think Miami takes it. I think they will just be more tested on paper. I like their roster more. I have faith in them to pull this off. After this, they play Duke at home, and while that'll be an interesting game for Darian Mensah, I still think they win. I really don't know what's left over on that Duke roster that can really threaten Miami, and unless this is one of those weird Miami Mario Cristobal type of games, I think they win with ease. After that, I think they beat the year one James Franklin Hokies, but this could be a very fun game. They could keep them on their toes a little bit. They have a good roster there now, but I think they win. And then they close the season at home against Boston College, where they win for an ultimate record of 11-1. That should be more than enough to get them back to the ACC championship game. And I'm not gonna do any playoff predictions, I'm not gonna do championship predictions, but at 11-1 with the loss to Clemson and the win against Notre Dame, I think they're in the college football playoff yet again. I don't think they're in as much danger at 11-1 as Notre Dame would be. And Notre Dame fans, you can get mad at me all you want for that. That's just how I see it. Overall, I hope this video helped you understand Miami's football team a little more. If you're a Miami fan, you can go into the season with confidence knowing you are going to be good and you have one of the best offenses and one of the best defenses in the country. And if you're not a Miami fan and you're looking at this as an ACC fan, yeah, you got something to watch out for. But if you're a neutral like me and you just love watching college football, then be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the top 4 videos. My team is coming up soon. I'm very excited to make that one, so be sure to subscribe and like the video to see that little football up here. We'll see you in the next video.